Have you ever looked at your past and wondered, why did that happen to me? Why did people hurt you when you gave them your best? Why did things fall apart when you prayed so hard for them to stay together? My friend, sometimes life breaks you, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you wiser, calmer, and stronger than before. Today's message is simple but life-changing. Turn your wounds into wisdom and your losses into lessons. Number 1, pain has purpose. Pain has purpose. Words that sound comforting, but only those who have walked through darkness truly understand their weight. Pain is not an accident, it's a design, a divine tool used to shape the raw material of your soul. We live in a world that teaches us to avoid discomfort, to run from sorrow, and to numb our hurts. But when you silence pain, you silence growth. Every ache, every tear, every moment that feels unbearable is an invitation, a quiet call for transformation. The most beautiful souls are not those who have lived easy lives, but those who have been broken open, healed, and then chosen to shine despite the cracks. Pain teaches what comfort never could. It builds compassion, carves out patience, and creates depth within you that joy alone cannot. When pain enters your life, it rarely comes announced. It disrupts everything familiar, shakes your plans, and leaves you wondering if life will ever make sense again. But pain is never meaningless. It arrives with a purpose that your heart can't yet see. Sometimes it's there to awaken you, to force you to stop running from your truth. Other times it comes to remove what no longer serves you. It may break your heart so that pride can fall, or strip away your certainty so faith can grow. Pain doesn't just test your strength, it reveals it. You discover your true capacity for endurance when the storm doesn't pass, yet you still choose to stand. And in that standing, something sacred happens. The part of you that once depended on the world's approval begins to lean on something higher, something eternal. There's a kind of wisdom that only pain can teach, the wisdom of empathy. When you've been through the valley yourself, you start seeing others differently. You stop judging their wounds because you recognize the reflection of your own. Pain softens what arrogance hardens. It humbles the heart and makes it human again. It turns your words into medicine and your presence into comfort for someone else who's still bleeding. What once broke you becomes the bridge that helps another person cross their struggle. That's how pain fulfills its purpose. Not when it disappears, but when it transforms you into someone capable of bringing light to others. If you look closely, you'll see that every major shift in your life was born out of discomfort. You grew stronger after rejection. You found clarity after confusion. You developed courage after fear. Pain is not a punishment, it's preparation. It's life's way of equipping you for the very blessings you prayed for. The strength you have today was once the pain you thought you couldn't survive. It's the refining fire that burns away illusions, leaving behind the purest version of you. To run from pain is to run from your own evolution. It's through the cracks of your brokenness that light finds a way in. And through those same cracks, your true self finally shines out. Number 2, shift from victim to victor. Shift from victim to victor. The most powerful transition a human being can ever make. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't come without struggle. It begins in the quiet moments when you finally get tired of your own pain, when you realize that life may have been unfair, people may have betrayed you, and circumstances may have crushed you, but staying broken is no longer an option. Victimhood is a heavy cloak. It keeps you small, keeps you silent, keeps you waiting for rescue. But the moment you decide that no one is coming to save you and that you must save yourself, that's when the transformation begins. Life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That simple shift in perspective changes everything. Being a victim means letting the past define you. It's a mindset that clings to the wound, replaying the betrayal, the loss, the failure over and over again. You justify your pain by nurturing it, holding it close because it's familiar. But victory requires release. It demands that you stop reliving your suffering and start rewriting your story. Every time you speak your pain with hope instead of bitterness, you weaken its grip. Every time you take responsibility for your healing instead of waiting for apologies, you step into power. The world may have hurt you, but you don't have to keep bleeding. Victors take the same pain that once paralyzed them and use it as fuel to rise higher. They learn that freedom doesn't come from forgetting what happened, it comes from no longer being controlled by it. The shift from victim to victor also requires forgiveness, not as a favor to those who wronged you, but as a gift to yourself. Holding on to resentment chains you to the past, while forgiveness sets you free to build a new future. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Because when you forgive, you stop giving power to the very people or situations that once tried to define you. You reclaim the narrative of your life. You realize that you were never powerless. You were only unaware of your strength. The victor sees every challenge as a stepping stone, every rejection as redirection, and every ending as a beginning in disguise. There's a moment when the victim finally rises, when the tears stop symbolizing defeat and start symbolizing cleansing. You begin to thank the pain because it revealed what you're made of. You start walking differently, not with bitterness, but with purpose. You no longer chase validation or revenge, you chase peace. You understand that being a victor doesn't mean you never fall, it means you refuse to stay down. You honor your wounds, but you don't worship them. You carry your scars as evidence of survival, not symbols of suffering. And in that quiet strength, you discover that the real victory was never about the outcome. It was always about who you became through the battle. Number 3, failure is a teacher, not a sentence. Failure is a teacher, not a sentence. It is not the final chapter of your story, but rather the classroom where your greatest lessons are taught. Most people fear failure because they mistake it for rejection, a declaration that they are not good enough. But failure is not a punishment, it is feedback. It is life's way of redirecting your steps, refining your purpose, and deepening your wisdom. Every time you fail, life is whispering, "This way doesn't work, try again." The problem is not that you failed, the problem is that you stopped listening. Failure was never meant to imprison you, it was meant to instruct you. The greatest minds, the most successful leaders, the strongest souls all share one thing in common. They failed more times than others even tried, and yet each time they fell, they rose with a clearer mind and a stronger spirit. When failure enters your life, it often feels like an ending. Your confidence shatters, your plans crumble, and your belief in yourself begins to fade. But if you can look beyond the pain, you will see that failure is not a wall, it's a mirror. It reflects what needs to change, what needs to grow, and what needs to be released. Every setback carries insight, every mistake carries instruction, but only those who are humble enough to learn from failure ever find its treasure. Those who fear it remain trapped in mediocrity, while those who embrace it rise to mastery. Failure strips away your illusions. It shows you where your ego stood in the way, where your shortcuts didn't serve you, and where your foundation was weak. It doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to strengthen what's real. The most valuable lessons in life are rarely taught through success. Success feels good, but it doesn't challenge you. It doesn't stretch your mind or test your endurance. Failure does. It humbles you, slows you down, and forces you to face truths you'd rather ignore. It reveals your resilience, your creativity, and your capacity for growth. Failure teaches you patience when everything feels delayed, faith when nothing makes sense, and persistence when every door seems to close. It's through failure that character is built. It's through falling that courage is born. And it's through trying again that victory becomes meaningful. Every time you rise after defeat, you prove that your worth is not measured by outcomes, but by perseverance. If you view failure as a teacher, you begin to welcome it differently. You stop being ashamed of your mistakes and start being grateful for them. You begin to see patterns, lessons, and truths that success alone could never reveal. You start asking deeper questions. What did I learn about myself? What will I do differently next time? What strength did this pain uncover in me? That is how wisdom grows. Failure ceases to be an enemy and becomes an ally. It teaches you to detach your value from your results and anchor it instead in your growth. It reminds you that falling short is not falling forever. It is falling forward, closer to understanding, closer to purpose, and closer to becoming the person you were always meant to be. Number 4, transform hurt into healing. Transform hurt into healing. Words that sound simple, yet they carry the deepest challenge of the human heart. Every one of us has been hurt in some way, by people we trusted, by losses we didn't expect, or by dreams that never came true. Hurt is inevitable, but what we do with that hurt determines the course of our lives. Many people hold on to their pain, wrapping it around their hearts like armor, thinking it protects them. But in truth, it keeps them trapped. Healing begins the moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start saying, what can I do with this pain now? Because pain that is not transformed will always be transmitted. The anger you don't heal becomes the anger you project. The sadness you don't face becomes the distance you create. The betrayal you don't release becomes the barrier that keeps love away. Healing is not forgetting. It's transforming the energy of what hurt you into something that uplifts you. Every scar has a story, and if you look closely, those stories are not just about suffering. They are about survival. The same pain that once brought you to your knees can also teach you compassion. When you've walked through darkness, you start to see other people's pain with softer eyes. You stop judging so quickly and start understanding more deeply. That's the beauty of healing. It turns you into a vessel of grace. What once broke you becomes the very source of your strength. You realize that the wound was never meant to define you. It was meant to awaken you. It pushes you to dig deeper, to find meaning, to create peace within yourself, even when the outside world feels cruel. Healing is not something that happens to you. It's something you create day by choosing to see your pain differently. Transformation begins when you stop fighting your hurt and start listening to it. Every emotion has a message. Your anger may be asking for boundaries. Your sadness may be asking for rest. Your grief may be asking for release. Healing happens when you allow yourself to feel instead of suppress, when you open your heart to growth instead of closing it in fear. The process is not quick. It's not linear. Some days you'll feel strong and forgiving. Other days the pain will resurface as if it never left. But every time you choose understanding over bitterness, you reclaim a piece of your power. Slowly, the wound loses its control over you, and peace begins to take its place. True healing is not about erasing the past. It's about reclaiming your story from it. It's about taking what once caused you pain and turning it into wisdom you can share with others. When you transform hurt into healing, you turn your scars into light for someone else's darkness. You realize that your journey through pain was never wasted. It was preparation. Every tear, every ache, every lonely night was building empathy within you, shaping you into someone who not only survives, but helps others survive too. That's how the hurt finds its purpose, not when it disappears, but when it transforms into healing that radiates from you like quiet strength. Number 5, perspective changes everything. Perspective changes everything. It is the lens through which you interpret every experience, every disappointment, every blessing, and every challenge. Two people can go through the same storm, yet one comes out broken while the other comes out stronger. Not because the storm was different, but because their perspectives were. Life is not shaped by what happens to you. It is shaped by how you see what happens to you. When you choose to shift your perspective, you gain power over pain, meaning over confusion, and peace over chaos. The difference between despair and hope is often just a change in viewpoint. If you look at your struggles as punishments, they will break you. But if you see them as preparation, they will build you. Perspective is not about denying reality. It's about deciding how you will respond to it. Every event in your life carries two stories, the one your pain tells and the one your growth can tell. Pain says, I was betrayed, I was rejected, I was abandoned. Growth says, I learned boundaries, I gained strength, I found clarity. Both are true, but the one you choose to focus on becomes your truth. Perspective doesn't erase your hurt, but it allows you to see purpose in it. The most resilient people are not those who never suffered. They are the ones who learned to interpret their suffering differently. They found light in the cracks, meaning in the mess, and wisdom in the wounds. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about believing that everything has something to teach you. When you change your perspective, your entire emotional landscape shifts. Problems that once felt unbearable become manageable. Setbacks that once discouraged you become motivation. Even the people who hurt you start to look different when you see them through the eyes of understanding rather than resentment. You realize that most of the pain you carry is not from what happened, but from how you've been seeing what happened. Perspective gives you freedom. It liberates you from the need to control circumstances and allows you to focus on what you can control, your response. Life becomes lighter, not because it's easier, but because your mind no longer interprets everything as a battle. Perspective is the foundation of peace. When you believe that life is happening for you, not against you, you start to approach every challenge as a divine setup for growth. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, what now? You begin to look at your delays as protection, your failures as direction, and your pain as transformation. The moment you decide to see life through the eyes of gratitude, even the smallest blessings begin to multiply. Your energy shifts, your focus expands, and your heart opens to possibilities you never noticed before. You understand that perspective is not just a way of thinking, it's a way of living. It determines whether you spend your life trapped in bitterness or walking in purpose. It shapes your conversations, your relationships, and even your destiny. Perspective doesn't change the past, but it changes how the past lives within you, and that changes everything. Number 6, from scars to strength, from scars to strength. Those few words carry the quiet story of every survivor who refused to let pain have the final word. Scars are not signs of weakness, they are evidence of healing. They remind you that yes, something tried to break you, but it didn't win. Every scar holds a chapter of your evolution, a silent testimony of battles fought and lessons learned. Too often, we hide our scars out of shame, afraid that they make us look fragile or imperfect. But the truth is, scars are symbols of resilience. They show that the wound has closed, the bleeding has stopped, and life has continued. Each mark on your heart, your body, or your soul carries the memory of endurance. It is through those very scars that your real strength is revealed. You can't build courage in comfort. You build it in the places where you once fell apart. When you look at your scars, you have two choices. You can see them as reminders of pain or as proof of power. The moment you decide that your scars are not something to be ashamed of, but something to be proud of, everything changes. Strength is not the absence of wounds. It's the decision to rise again, even after being cut open by life. Every heartbreak, every failure, every betrayal leaves a mark. But those marks can either harden you or humble you. The difference lies in perspective. When you choose to see your scars as evidence of survival, you stop being a victim of your past and start being the author of your future. You begin to walk with quiet confidence, knowing that nothing you face can defeat you the way pain once did. The strongest people in the world are not those who never fell. They are the ones who fell, bled, and still stood up again. They know what it's like to feel broken, yet they also know the power of rebuilding. Each scar reminds them of their own ability to rise from ashes. And in that rising, something sacred happens. Compassion grows. Because when you have been through pain yourself, you understand others on a deeper level. You stop judging and start helping. You stop blaming and start forgiving. You realize that your scars were never meant to make you bitter. They were meant to make you better. They soften your edges while strengthening your core. From scars to strength is not a journey of perfection. It's a journey of transformation. It's about looking at your reflection and seeing beauty where you once saw damage. It's about recognizing that your scars are the roadmap of your becoming. They show where you've been, what you've endured, and who you've become through it all. Strength doesn't mean you are untouched by life. It means you were touched deeply and still chose to heal. Every scar is a story of victory written on the surface of your survival. They remind you that you've been tested but not defeated, hurt but not destroyed, bent but never broken. So as you walk away from this message, remember this. Your story is not defined by what broke you, but by how beautifully you rose from it. Every wound you've carried was shaping wisdom. Every loss you endured was planting strength. You are living proof that pain can create power, and scars can shine brighter than fear. Keep rising, keep learning, and keep turning every chapter of struggle into a page of strength, because your comeback will always speak louder than your suffering.